Welcome back to It's Not a Sport.
Alright, welcome back to It's Not a Sport. We got a good show. We talk about art in video games and how they affect the industry, and we also talk about MMOs and why I don't think how they can improve and why I don't think they're doing too well in today's market. First off, in the Overwatch League, there's because they finished the finals about 2 weeks ago, there's nothing going on. But the biggest, I think, big Overwatch, not Overwatch, esports event going on right now is EVO, which is Evolution 2018, which is a fighting tournament. It's the huge, big fighting tournament, in case you didn't know. It goes on each year. I recommend you go watch it. There are a lot of good matches. In case you're interested, for Street Fighter, Problem X came in first, and Takedo came in second, and Fudo came in third. For Smash Bros. Melee, honestly, I cannot tell you, because there's so many different, just small little tournaments that go on for, Evolution. So you should just definitely just go check out EVO yourself. It looks like Fox came in first for the Smash tournament. And then for Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, yeah, they have Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, they have Street Fighter V, they have Rocket League, they have Super Smash Bros. I think they have Killer Instinct. I think they do Tekken. They have CS:GO. They have Capcom versus Marvel. They have Dragon Ball Fighter Z. They have Clash Royale. They have Dota 2. They have FIFA 18. They have Fortnite, For Honor, Horizon, Gears 4, Halo 5, Hearthstone, Injustice 2, Mortal Kombat, League of Legends, Madden 2017. There are so many games just to check out. So definitely check that out if you're an esports fan, you like competitive fighting games, you actually like to see people do crazy good things. In terms of League of Legends and the NALCS, currently Team Liquid is first place with 10 wins, 4 losses. Echo Fox and 100 Thieves are tied for second with 9 wins, 5 losses for both teams. And then FlyQuest, Cloud9, Optics tied for 4th, TSM 7, Counterlogic Gaming, Golden Guardians, and Clutch Gaming tied for last place, which is 8th. And EU LCS, Fnatic is first and tied with Misfits. FC, Team Vitality, G2 are all tied for 3rd. Splice is 6th. The Rocats are 7th. Giants, Unicorns of Love, and Giants is 8th. Unicorns of Love is 9th, and H2K is 10th. We're going to move on to our next segment where I'm going to talk about the art of video games. I hope you enjoy. I hope you enjoy. Alright, welcome back. So we have 2 topics today. The first one is going to be the art in video games, and the second is going to be why I think MMOs aren't doing so well in today's market. Moving into the art of video games, you'll be surprised how much work really goes into designing a video game. It's a long process, and I think it's also not represented as much, just like how music in a video game is not represented much. But before they do anything, just like with any media process, they have to create a storyboard and, concept art. They have to design the world. They have to design the characters. What are they gonna look like? You know, who are they gonna be? Are they gonna have big arms? They're gonna have uh, small legs, and there's a lot of process that goes into this. And as an artist, I really, respect this regard, and it just looks really cool sometimes just to see, oh, that's what that looks like in its original form. The biggest probably example of this that I think the average person will see is that if you play Fortnite and you get the loading screen artwork, that's their artwork. That's somebody's artwork that that they're promoting in their game. Same with League. If you play League, uh, you'll notice all the splash screen artwork, all the skins. That's somebody's artwork, and you can find those people on ArtStation. ArtStation is a great hub for content like that. It's a great for finding concept artists. If you just want cool backgrounds for like your PC or your iPhone, that's where I get my stuff. I just go and I look and find somebody that I like, and I find their work. And you can find a lot of League of Legends concept artists on there. A lot of Blizzard. They like generally when there's games released, there's concept art for it. And there's some Call of Duty stuff. Uh, there's animation stuff on there too, and it's great. Trying to remember the most recent kind of game. It's not coming to me. But ArtStation, yeah. So it's also what people go on there and they look for work. Yeah, they'll look for work and they'll look for jobs, and what's going on there now? There's a couple. There's some Kratos, and there's some of Detroit Becoming Human. Great games, and people get inspired, and then they make art for it. Not only that, but ArtStation, there's other places where you can find not just fan art, but also good concept art. Reddit is a great place. People often have, I know Blade and Soul, for instance, has concept art contests where they'll take the art that whoever won the contest, and then they'll put it in the game as a loading screen. And often what they also do is they're in those when you spend like $120 for the collector's edition, they'll include an art book in there. And sometimes they also do that opposite with music, where they include a CD in there. But it's always cool to kind of look at those. So if you're an artist, it's just a great field, I think. And if you like making good concept art, it's a great field to go in, not only in video games, but in the movie industry too. The movie industry and the video game industry are very similar, surprisingly. For Infinity War, which was one of the last big blockbusters, they had to create a storyboard, and they had to design what Titan would look like, what the Earth scene would look like, what Thanos would look like, and they had to design that. And well, yeah, and I'm sure you can find some of that, and it just looks beautiful. So that's a source. ArtStation, Reddit, I'm sure Instagram, definitely. There's definitely people on Instagram. Tumblr, people create fabulous art pieces on Tumblr. But my one downside to this type of genre is, and again, it has to do with the industry, is that it's industry standards. So when people are looking for concept art like this, they're looking for, what meets the industry standard. So oftentimes, a lot of the stuff looks the same. And that's fine, that's cool. It's just a style of art. But there's also, other beautiful styles of art, and this is where I can move more into fan art side of things. I've seen just a majority of the stuff that I of joy. And even though it does look like industry standard stuff, some stuff is clunky, some stuff is, you know, different, more watercolory, more oily, is fan art. And fan art, I think, is what initially, at the end of the day, fuels everything, and it allows the artist to go look at other people's fan art, and it gives them encouragement to continue to keep on going and to make changes and to really, you know, design a character. There have been multiple cases with Riot, I believe, where people have designed concept art for skins, and I believe variations. They'll never admit it, but variations often get put into the game. Off the top of my head, I believe maybe like one of the Google, like the browser skins, like Starfox or Firefox Ari or something like that, may have been one. Maybe I think Beekeeper Singe actually may have been one. But yeah, stuff like that is what fuels the community and what keeps them going, what gives people ideas. I, for one, have files upon files of just people's fan art and concept art that I love to rotate out every once in a while on my phone. About every 3 or so months, I just rotate out people's artwork, and I just have a whole, pretty much almost like half a hard drive just filled with them. So I, you know, definitely check that out. And if you want to try it, I recommend taking your hand at it. I took a spin-off of, I just traced my sister and kind of did my own kind of spoof of her, among other things, for art projects. So definitely, you know, take a hand on it. And if you find someone you like on a platform, make sure, you know, that they have a Patreon or something like that. Find it and support it if you really wish, because, you know, they definitely need it, and if they enjoy doing that, just like with anything, I hope you support it. Moving on, we're going to talk about MMOs, which stands for Massive Multiplayer Online games, specifically MMORPGs. So there's kind of, in my opinion, 3 big ones. At least here, this is again kind of a different topic to do with Western market and Eastern market. But there's 3 big ones. And that is World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, and Guild Wars 2. Those are the 3 big ones. After that, there's also games like RuneScape, Black Desert, Blade and Souls, Stars, The Old Republic, The Elder Scrolls Online are also pretty big ones. But here's why I think why they've been declining, or why they're not as popular as they were back in when WoW first released in 2003, 2004-ish. Why they're not as popular. WoW has an upcoming expansion in about a couple days now. It comes out the 13th. I believe it's their 7th expansion. And they're still strong and they're still going. Why is this game still strong, still growing? Well, 1, because they have a dedicated fan base. 2, because there's a lot to do in the game. It's a very old game. People get bored of it. Yes, they should get bored of it. But it's a very old game, and there's a lot to do, and it's been the king of MMORPGs for forever now. They're a monster. It's also where Blizzard gets, you know, most of their inspiration from. But they're a monster, and they know what they're doing. And yeah, I'm enjoying it currently. I'm trying to level in it 1 through, you know, max level, which will soon be 120. It's hard, yes. It's an old game, yes. But it's still, it's confusing, yes. But there's still a lot to do, and that's kind of why I think new players, if they go to WoW, it's so overwhelming. Final Fantasy and Guild Wars are different. They only have 2 expansions. They came out in 2012, 2013-ish. They're completely different games. I think Final Fantasy is more of an updated WoW in a way. It's just not entirely done or there to the point that WoW is. My biggest problem with Final Fantasy is that dungeons will level you down. So if you're doing old content, which you have to, of course, you'll be leveled down to that content's level. And one, the queues are just way too long. That's my biggest problem. Oh, and also there's a lot of story that you can't really skip. They need to kind of streamline that. But that's kind of goes the opposite of WoW, where I don't, as a new player, I don't have, I don't have a set path. It's kind of like they threw you out in the world, and it's like, okay, here's these quests, now go quest. Guild Wars is completely different. Yes, it has a lot of story, but you don't have to do the story at all. The story is skippable because it's actually in chapters. So if you want to do the Living World story updates, which is like the current story update, you can do that. You don't have to play the original story because it was arguably bad. Guild Wars is a lot more casual. And this is why it gets into my point why I think this genre of video games is not, performing well. They require a lot of time and a lot of energy. If you're playing WoW, you're buying the expansion and you're paying $15 a month, same with Final Fantasy, to play the game for a month. You have to get your money's worth, or to get, somewhat of your money's worth. One, you have to be playing pretty much every day. You have to be grinding out the content. And sure, there's a lot to do, but that's the problem. There's a lot to do. Why is Fortnite so popular? Because the Fortnite game can take from 30 minutes to 30 seconds. People don't have the time to sit in front of a computer and play MMO and sit in a dungeon and fail and learn it over and over and over again. That's why these games, yes, they still have millions of players. Yes, I really enjoy playing them. I think they're peaceful, nice games. I love PvE. I love sitting back, listening to my music, and just, killing shit with people. But still, they're incredibly time-consuming. They're incredibly costly if you're spending, $15 a month, which isn't a lot. But let's say it isn't a lot if you have a job. So if you're, 20 or so, or then it isn't a lot because you probably have a steady income. But if you're younger, like 4 or 5, or not 4 or 5, I'm just thinking like Fortnite kids, 10, 12, 13, you probably don't have a steady income, and that's why you can't play these games. So you opt out for the free-to-play game, which is Fortnite. And you have the time to do it because it's shorter, you don't have to be dedicated to it, and you can still, do your homework or whatever else you do. So that's why, MMOs are hard. The same applies to Guild Wars, but the reason why Guild Wars, I think, is more casual is because, well, it's a different model. It's not pay-to-play. It is, you buy it once, and you get to play as much as you want. They've moved towards this. MMOs have moved towards this, where Guild Wars, for instance, the free account, you can play the entire base game for free. You don't have to spend a cent on that game. Of course, you get, you don't get certain things, like you can't sell stuff, you can't trade stuff, you can't do X, Y, Z, and you can't experience all the good things that the expansion has to offer. But yeah, it's more casual. It's a little bit more up to date. I think it's easier to learn, both content-wise and quality of life-wise. The combat isn't global cooldowns. It's a little bit more fast-paced, And that's why I think when I first got into MMOs, I started playing Guild Wars, and I played Guild Wars for about 4 years, and I still play it on and off because I can. I don't have to pay. I don't have to buy it. I don't have to do anything. Uh, and that's why it's just a little more. If you're trying to get into this genre of video games, I recommend Guild Wars first. Second of all, the end game. The end game is a very important factor of MMOs, and that's why you're grinding out every day is to keep up with the end game or catch up to the end game. If the end game isn't fascinating enough, then people drop it. There's no point in paying that monthly fee. There's no point in playing the game. This is Guild Wars' biggest problem, is that it had a content drought, and there was no end game, and eventually added raids, which helped a lot. But at the end of the day, even though it's a content drought and there's nothing to do, those aren't the biggest, problems which are stopping these games. It's still time consuming. Playing Guild Wars every day, doing dailies every day, it's time consuming. It's exhausting. It gets tiring. This moves into a different genre of video games, and that is what we're talking about is Western, which is more of American, except Final Fantasy. That's actually Japanese. But over the other part of the MMO market is really the Korean MMO. The Korean MMO, they come out with a new Korean MMO every 2 years, or at least here in America, because they have to translate it all that. My most recent one in 2016, I believe, Blade and Soul was released. And I fell in love with Blade and Soul. The combat is so fast paced. You're Chinese martial art ninja. The story was Korean drama like what it was awful. It was some bad voice acting. Of course, that's to be expected. It was a translated game, and it was great. Problem is, it's incredibly grindy. Korean MMOs are incredibly grindy. So the time that you spent playing WoW or Guild Wars or Final Fantasy is doubled. No, tripled just to keep up with the constant updates and the constant grind in the game. And eventually you just get burnt out. I didn't even get burnt out because of the grind. I got burnt out because of just how people treated the game. So people became toxic. People became, elitist because they wanted to be the best at the grind. They want to be ahead instead of growing the community and helping each other grow. And the company, also who manages the game, just didn't. They wanted money. That's all they wanted. They didn't care about the quality of life like Final Fantasy and WoW and Guild Wars do. So I've heard, so at the end of the day, I think it's hurt the game. The people who are still playing it are just people who are really delegated. The game has just turned into just raids after raids after raids after raids, and the raids are weekly locked, so you only can do them once a week to get the stuff that you need. And then after that, it's, well, I'm grinding this gold for, upgrades because they're so costly. And again, that's just time. Again, but this is the Korean market is very different than over here. It's very different. I've heard things about Black Desert Online too, which is probably the most beautiful MMO out there. Is that it has problems with servers. They just don't treat the servers well, and it's very pay to winish with this one item because it's very RNG based, and it's just sad to see things like that. Ultimately, what it comes down to is people don't have the time. I think if WoW, yes, it's a big game. I don't mind paying the fee, but if the fee went away, and it would attract so many more people to that game. And if they could experience not just to level 20, but to level 60, which was their max level God knows how long ago, if they could experience the old base game endgame, then I think that game would grow even though it's, 13 years old. If Final Fantasy fixed their queue times a little bit and got rid of lowering levels and added some sort of scaling system to the game, I think that game would grow immensely as well. And I think if Guild Wars 2 added more traditional dungeons, they actually suffer from the opposite of all the other things. They added traditional dungeons other than Fractals of the Mist, which is cool, but if they brought back traditional dungeons, things to run, things to look forward to, hard things to do, and easier kind of puggable raids, I think. The raids aren't hard to get into. There's community teaching them all the time, which is great. But if they did that, I think that I'd be much more attracted to that game and grow immensely. And when it comes to Black Desert, and why I won't touch that, and Blade and Souls, and why I won't touch that, is really the community, but not really the community, because the community can be nice. It's the company, and the company can run the game better and show me that they're not just in it for the money, then those games would be much more attractive. But at the end of the day, they all suffer from time. I don't have the time to play these games. I don't have the time to spend hours in a dungeon grinding. And then, so this moves on to kind of the new kind of genre of MMORPGs, and we'll talk about this real quick, is that the new genre of MMORPGs is Destiny. Destiny is essentially an MMO. It has strikes, which is dungeons. It has raids. It has things to look forward to. But it's shorter, and you don't have to spend so much time just to keep up with things. You can always come back. Nothing really changes. It evolves. Again, the problem with Destiny 2 right now is that Bungie just does not run the game well. They don't run it like an MMO, and they should run it like an MMO, because they refuse to put the MMO name on it, because they think it will be a turnoff for some reason. But it is essentially an MMO. This is the same for The Division. Is an MMO. You play with people, you do dungeons, whatever they call their strikes. They're adding raids because they know that it's an end game, it's an MMO. They just need to face that fact, and if they face that fact with those games, they would be perfect. I hope you enjoyed this episode of It's Not a Sport. Follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube, our Instagram, etc., all that social media. And tune in next week for another great episode of It's Not a Sport. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.